right.
All right, cool.
Mr. Debkowski.
He just left
He
us, guys.
just left.
Okay.
He just up and ditched us.
There's our Quinn.
Okay, well, I'll start because everybody knows. So I'm just gonna, I made like this PowerPoint thing, just like kind of talking about WACS news, but it's super short. And okay, hold on, let me figure out.
What does she need to figure out?
Oh, and she said she's just doing like a pop.
Oh, okay.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, I can.
So, just talking about everything. Hold on, it's freezing. Okay, so we're our school's news team, WACS News, obviously, and the cool part about it is that we can like operate like a real newsroom. We have like the green screen, we have like all the cool equipment that we can use. And everyone has an assigned role that we got in the beginning of the year. So there's like executive producers, social media editors and stuff, and then reporters. And we cover everything that needs to be covered or we want to be covered so we can come up with like our own ideas to make videos. There's coverage request forms, so anyone from the school can request for us to cover something. So, but yeah, like that's probably one of the coolest parts about it is that we can like come up with our own ideas and we have a lot of freedom to do what we want to do. So, yeah, like I said, we can make our own ideas. People do podcasts, so that's something cool because if you aren't the best at editing videos or stuff like that, you can do a podcast. We have different cycles where we come up with new ideas and make new videos, and we have the deadlines for those ideas. Mr. Debkowski is super flexible with everything, which is another because it's not like a super stressful class. It's just really like relaxed and you don't have to worry about anything. And then Ray and Sophie do our social media and they're super cool. They come up with super cool like designs to put out there and stuff. And we can talk to them about anything we want on social media. We have like Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. And then, yeah, it's since like the school year is weird this year, we have the different cohorts, but it's cool because we can still like collaborate with people from different cohorts. But yeah, it's definitely like a huge change since everyone's so used to being like all together. Like my class is only me and two other people, but the Zooms are good, like the Teams calls are good because we can all talk and get updates on where everyone's at. So yeah, that's all I have. Anything else anyone wants to add?
I think that covered it pretty well.
Okay. Okay, so what's next?
Well, I can go ahead and chime in. It seems like we have a lot in common, especially this year when you're talking about working, with a minimal staff and away from other people. Right now, I'm in my kitchen. So when I came home after my live shots this morning, I came home. I did conference calls from home. I edit from home. I do a lot of Zoom interviews. So I think that that's one thing that a lot of us, have been able to or trying to be able to adjust to that in 2020 and 2021. So some challenges for sure, but I follow you guys on Twitter and on Instagram, saw all the socials and everything. So I'm able to see a lot of the work that you've done. And in a normal year, I've been into the classroom, so I get to see some of the equipment you guys have and the setup, which is really cool. And it's neat because it's very familiar, very similar, I should say, to what we have, in some capacity, which is cool because you're learning on equipment that's used in the industry. You are following the steps that we would, in some form or fashion. Deadlines, obviously a little bit tighter for us, a little bit more strict, but other than that, the way that you get stories, the people requesting coverage and that sort of thing is very similar to what we do.
Cool. Okay. Are we starting questions now, or are we still like talking about?
I can give you, I know that Colin wanted me to give just like a little summary of what I do. And I'll just do that quickly and then you guys can open it up to questions. That way I can talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. So again, I'm Heather. I have been at Channel 2 since 2006. And I came during the October snowstorm. So before the big storm we had several years ago, there was another big storm. And that was my first day at Channel 2 and on the air. I am a general assignment reporter and an anchor. So during the week, I work for Daybreak, and my alarm goes off at 2 a.m. That's when I start my day, and I report for the morning show. And then on the weekends, I anchor. And general assignment means I do a little bit of everything. So today, I was covering the governor. Another day, I might be covering breaking news or covering weather. So it's nice because I have a little bit of variety. I get to do some feature stuff and some evergreen stuff, stories that will hold that aren't necessarily super timely, but interesting and sometimes a little bit fun. So that is basically what I do. I do a little producing, stuff for the web and then stuff for social. So that's one of the things that has changed over the years with my job is you don't just come in and read the news anymore. You don't just come in and, edit or just shoot video. You're doing a lot of different jobs. I guess speaking of different jobs, so what are your guys' positions? You said at the beginning of the year you started with different titles, right? What do you guys do?
I'm a reporter.
I'm a sports editor, and Tyler to my right and Joe to my left are both sports reporters.
I'm also a reporter.
Nice. How has it been this year? Because again, I see some of you are at home, some are in the studio or in the newsroom, right? A little challenging, right? Not being together with everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's pretty good though that we have like teams and stuff because at the start of every class we all have meetings with like everybody at home and we just like get updates and we just like get let go at home and we can work on anything or we'll do stuff like all together. Like if we have like critique sessions or whatever, we'll do those all together. But yeah, Teams is definitely like a good source to use during a pandemic.
Yeah, definitely. So you said critiques. Do you guys critique each other's stuff? Is it Colin or Mr. Debkowski critiquing your work for you, or a little bit of everything?
Yeah, we just will do all when one of our videos is finished, or like last week we did a critique thing with like rough drafts. So some of our videos were like half, and then we'll watch them together, and then everybody can like give feedback or like suggestions on stuff we could do to like make the videos better.
Yeah, I like that you guys do that so that you're not completely done with something and then realize that you have to change it, right from the start, which is good.
Yeah.
I'll open it up, I guess, to you guys. What questions do you have for me? I know that one of the things that he wanted me to touch on was, I guess, how to be more comfortable on camera. But before we get to that, what questions do you have for me?
My questions was, what's your favorite and least favorite part of your
least favorite, I mentioned before, that's my alarm, which goes off at 2:00 in the morning. I would say my favorite part of my job, it's sort of twofold. I like that every day is different. I like the flexibility. You had talked about that, for yourself, being able to kind of pick and choose what stories you do. I have some flexibility. There's some things that are assigned to me and that have to be covered, but for Daybreak and my show specifically, I'm able to, branch out and do some things that I really enjoy. And I really like getting out and meeting people, though that's been a little bit difficult over the past year. We're doing a lot of Zoom interviews, but I'm not tied to a desk, which is really nice. And I've done a lot of cool stories. I get to meet a lot of cool people and see things and learn about things that maybe other people don't get to, sort of behind the scenes. And I always say it's kind of like being nosy and wanting to know what's going on. And we're some of the first people that get to figure out, what's going on, which is cool. It definitely makes every day interesting and different.
Cool.
Cool.
Who's up next?
I guess I'll go next. So I saw that you used to live in Chicago. Is it better living in Buffalo, or do you like Chicago more?
So Chicago is home for me. That's where I grew up. And I always say that Buffalo is like a mini Chicago. And I feel like unless you've been to both places, sometimes people are like, "Oh, you're crazy. How in the world is Buffalo like Chicago?" It's very much Rust Belt city, a lot of working class. It scaled down version. The diversity is the same. Buffalo, obviously, a much smaller scale. Um, I think there's pros and cons. I miss home. My family is there, and a lot of my longtime friends are there. But I've been in Buffalo for so long, so I've made Buffalo my home. And there's a lot of great people here, and the cost of living is great here. So there's, like I said, good and bad with everything. I wouldn't necessarily say bad. There's just differences.
All right, thank you.
I should add Buffalo's a great news town too. There's a lot to cover. Um, Politics, breaking news. I've worked in smaller markets where there's not a lot going on. We've got 2 professional sports teams, so that gives us things to talk about and things to cover. So there's definitely a lot to do here.
I guess I'll go. Did you work at any other news station before you worked at Channel 2?
Yes. So my first job was at a PBS public broadcasting station just outside of Chicago. I was 18 when I got my first job there. I was a producer and an assignment editor, and I had no idea what I was doing. But they were willing to pay me, and it was a summer gig, and they wanted to hire me. So kind of learned along the way. Then from there, while I was still in college, I worked for the CBS station in Chicago. It was behind the scenes, very much grunt work, entry level, low man on the totem pole, but got my foot in the door and I learned a lot there. Then my first reporting job was Syracuse. I was there for 2 years, and then I came to Buffalo after that. So, and reported in Syracuse. That was my first on-air job. So I had to move away from home in order to get my first gig.
All right, thank you.
Tyler.
Who's up next?
I'll go next. What was your favorite story that you covered?
Ooh. I mean, I've covered thousands over the years. So this will be my 20th year in news, which is kind of crazy to think. So I was not much older than you guys when I got my first job. So it's hard to pick one. I can pick some memorable ones. Well, one of my favorites, I was nominated for a couple of awards, which was kind of cool. That wasn't, the goal at the time, but it was nice to have people recognize my work. There was a little boy who was born without part of his leg, and he was a hockey like nut. He absolutely loved it, and he was super adorable. And I ended up doing a story on him and the struggle for his family to try to find and afford a prosthetic leg for him so that he could play hockey, a specialized leg. And that was a story that just came up really because his picture was on the wall at the arena. It was in a mural, and somebody said, "This little boy, we wish we knew the story behind him." So through some coworkers and social media, we were able to figure out who he was and do the backstory, and did a couple of follow-ups. And it turned out that through the stories that I had done and the reporting that I had done, somebody came forward anonymously and donated money for a leg, which was $20,000, I think. It was pretty crazy. So you talk about advocacy and making a difference. That is one that is memorable. And I still keep in touch with the family, which is really nice too. And he's much older and he's doing great. So it's nice to be able to follow along too. So that's definitely a favorite. This November storm, as crazy as that was, that's something that I'm going to remember for my entire career. I think people will remember that, who grew up, in Western New York or who were in Western New York at the time. So obviously that is pretty high up there. But yeah, I'm sort of a weirdo too. I like covering snowstorms as much as I complain about the cold and snow. There is something fun about covering weather. I think you just always have to find the good in whatever story you're assigned, and you can turn it into something interesting most times.
Thank you.
Good questions in this group. Who's up next?
I'll go next. So what like type of, or how long did you have to like go to school to be able to get to where you're at like now?
So I majored in broadcast journalism. I went to Columbia College in Chicago, and I have a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism. Throughout college, I had 4 internships, and I started relatively early. At the time, I was waiting tables, and I hated it. And one of my professors said, "Okay, well, then do something about it and start working in the field that you want to work in." And I was like, "I'm 17 years old. Nobody's going to hire me." And lo and behold, I started at a little tiny station. They gave me my first job. And so 4 years of college, some people have master's degrees. You don't necessarily need a master's degree. And you don't necessarily need to major in journalism. We've got people who majored in political science and history, English, writing. For me, I learned a lot in college, but I also learned a lot during my internship. So kind of say that my internships were almost my master's degree. And then I ended up getting jobs from them and getting paid, which is even better.
All right, I got another one. How do you get your stories? Like, do you choose them or?
So a little bit of everything. In the morning, so like I start my morning reporting and I do live shots. So that's when you'll see me on daybreak when I'm out in the field covering something. Those are usually the more timely topics, and those are usually chosen for me by my producer. So like I was covering the governor this morning, and that was obviously one of the biggest stories, still is one of the biggest stories of the day. So that was my story this morning. After that, I shoot and write and edit most of the time stories of my choice. And they're usually what we call evergreen stories. So it's something like an evergreen tree, it doesn't lose its needles or leaves. It can last. And so that gives me the flexibility to shoot something that they can air tomorrow, they can air it Monday, they can air it in a couple weeks. So I help to create new content for our morning show. Sometimes people will call in or write in and say that I have a story idea. Sometimes it's a coworker. Sometimes it's just something that I see and I'm interested in. And we get a lot of stuff from social media too. People writing in and asking, hey, what's going on with this? Or have you heard about this? So social is a great way to get some ideas as well.
Okay, I have a question. Was there anyone that like specifically inspired you to like become a reporter, or did you just like enjoy that and like kind of want to do that?
So when I was deciding what I wanted to do, guess really in high school. I had always kind of thrown around. I'm like, maybe I'll be an attorney, or I don't know, maybe I'll go to med school, but I wasn't um, dead set on anything. It was just kind of throwing out careers that sounded good, I guess, and okay, I can make a good living. But the one thing that I really enjoyed always was writing. And I always thought that it was something that I was relatively good at. So in high school is kind of when I decided, I'm like, okay, well, what about, journalism? Because I knew I wasn't going to write a book and be an author. That didn't really interest me. So I went the journalism route. And originally I wanted to do newspaper. It didn't really occur to me to do TV. Um, and then one of my professors and my advisor had pulled me aside. It was my freshman year. So we had to decide kind of what path you were taking. So you're in journalism. Are you going to go TV or radio? Or are you going to go newspaper, print, magazine? And she had encouraged me to do TV. She's like, you talk a lot, for one. And she said, you have energy, and maybe you can kind of translate that and combine that into something that would work for you. And so I started taking classes. I liked the editing part of it. I liked the visual part of it. And I also liked that it was kind of short and sweet. You can watch a 30-minute newscast and get a lot in 30 minutes or an hour. And the fast pace sort of connected with me as well. Now, let me ask you, how do you guys like reporting, and what's your favorite part, and what is your least favorite or your most challenging part, would you say?
I like that we get to like pick our own stuff, so I'm not assigned something that like I definitely don't want to do. So that's probably like my favorite, and like the freedom to like kind of edit it how you want. Like the app that we use to edit stuff has like a ton of different like options for editing. So I like that. And my least favorite, I don't know.
And at this time, Michael
I don't know.
should report to the side Atlantic entrance for professionals. Thank you.
I don't know. I'll probably think of something later. But yeah, I like it a lot.
Something that's pretty challenging is not being in school like all the time. It's kind of
Oh no, you're breaking up just a little bit.
What did you catch?
I just caught the very first part. You said it's one of the challenges is obviously not being in school all the time.
Oh yeah, because it's very hard to get like maybe like even half of your video done within like 2 days of like being just in class.
I mean, that's the challenge that we face too. Being at home, and I've heard this from a lot of people in a lot of different fields, that you have to be more self-motivated. You don't have, or in my case, or in your case as well, you don't have a newsroom of people around you constantly pushing you. Things slow down a little bit, I feel like, and I know that that's a challenge for me, is trying to not get distracted too at home by other things, because I've got laundry over here and dishes over here, and it's like, no, this is my office. I need to stop and I need to focus and work on what I need to work on. And I know that I thrive off of the excitement and the movement and everything happening around me. So that's definitely a challenge. I could see where that gets a little bit difficult. But it seems like you guys are doing a really great job with the Zoom calls. Those are huge. I think that's really important to stay connected with everybody, because you're still a team. You're just, a little separated right now, but hopefully that will change.
Heather, are you at your home space right now?
I am. This is my lovely pantry over here. Yes, and
Aha.
we've got my coffee maker over there. Those are the essentials.
I don't know if you've talked about this yet, but do you do like live shots at home or recording at home? And if so, like how's that work?
So with my shift, since I work daybreak, it's a little bit different. I usually go and meet a photographer and I do live shots out in the field. So I'm remote from somewhere. And once I'm done, then I usually will go back home and do a Zoom interview. Occasionally, we're doing in-person interviews. It kind of changes with the wind, what we're allowed to do and not do. We also have we call them shanties. It's basically like a glorified construction shed. And we've got a bunch of those in our parking lot at work. So the thought is they wanted to separate people throughout the pandemic so that, heaven forbid somebody gets sick, it's not an entire newsroom of people going down. But a lot of what I do editing and shooting wise is done away from the newsroom. But in terms of an actual like anchoring, I haven't had to do anything from home. But some people have. Some people have been home producing and reporting the entire pandemic, which has been really wild. But I can go in on the weekend since I'm one of 4 people that's there. And that was always the case, even pre-pandemic. There were 4 of us on the weekend that put together a newscast.
So I just want to thank you so much, Heather. I just want to let you know that we have about 4 minutes left at 11:40. We'll come back into the main room. Unless like some conversations are on fire, I'm open to extending it. But I think that we'll come back around 11:40. So just to let you guys know, if you get booted out of the room, that's why it happens.
I guess
All right.
just for you guys, any final questions or anything like that that you have for me?
This isn't really a serious question at all, but with your chicken wings, do you prefer ranch or blue cheese?
I really don't like either. I mean, I'm more of a plain chicken wing person, and I like the flats. If you want to be more specific. Although I will say this, blue cheese is like a Buffalo thing. If you order them anywhere else, number one, the wings aren't as good in Chicago. It's not really a thing, obviously, but they do serve ranch.
Gross. That's not how you do it.
I do like fries with ranch. So are you disqualifying me for that?
No, that's fine.
Okay. Just really quickly before we go, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a really good handle on what you're doing. The one thing that I like is that, some of you are focused on sports and some of you are focused on, sort of the general assignment reporting or community reporting. I think the most important thing is just finding what you like. And it's nice that you have the freedom to choose what stories you like, because if you like what you're doing, it's going to show. It's not going to feel like work. Your excitement is going to show in your work. You're not going to feel like dread. There are definitely some stories that are assigned to me that I know that I have to do. And I feel like you can always tell, when it's something that I don't necessarily want to do, when it's a topic I like, your work kind of shines. So keep up the good work there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How about you? Are you like a strictly blue cheese person? Going back to that conversation.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't like a lot of things, and blue cheese and ranch are really gross to me. So
Yeah, I'm not really big on the whole like condiments thing.
yeah.
Like mayo, mustard, all of that stuff. I know I'm probably in the minority, but
No, yeah, I don't like any of that either. I hate ketchup.
yeah, ketchup. I mean, I'll eat ketchup. It is a little weird though, and it smells weird. We've covered a lot of topics here. I like it. Anything else, guys? No?
I think I'm all set. Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Okay. So we'll join the main meeting in a little bit. What stories are you guys working on now? Anything in the works?
I just finished my video and our cycle ended Monday, and this was our next class. So right now I don't have anything assigned to me personally.
Word. This room will close in 10
I should
seconds.
probably read.